Okay, welcome back. And we are on verse 13. And I want you to remember this verse. It's very important, actually, 12. Shemesh begivon dom veyareach be'emek ayalon. Okay, that means sun stand still at Gibeon and moon in the valley of Ayalon. So the sun and the moon are remaining still, and the darkness shouldn't come, so Yehoshua could finish his battle against those 5 kings. Verse 13. And of course, the sun stood and the moon stood until he was able to defeat his enemies, the 5 kings, and help the Gibeonites. And that is written in a book called Sefer HaYashar, which means that the history of the battle or the events of the battle are written in that book. And the sun stood in half of the sky, and it didn't go as it always does. And there was no day like that before it or after it that the Lord hearkened unto the voice of man, namely, God listened to man and stopped the motion of the sun and the moon. And Joshua returned with everybody to Gilgal, to their main camp, after that battle. And the 5 kings, ran away. The 5 kings, 1 second, let me move it up. They ran away and they hid in a cave in a city called Makkedah. And Yehoshua was told that the 5 kings were caught hiding in the cave, and Yehoshua said, cover the opening of the cave with giant stones so that they shouldn't be able to get out, and we will keep them there as captives. And you don't pursue them after their enemies and smite the hinds of them. So go after, right after the enemies, leave the kings alone, right after your enemies. And the tail means those who are lagging behind, the slowpokes. And don't allow them to return to their cities, because God will help you conquer them. And just as Yehoshua finished, and the people finished to defeat those people to the end, and they came to the fortified cities. And everybody came to Makkedah in peace, and nobody was able to fight against the Israelites. So their name and Joshua's reputation is really high. Joshua becomes important, and all the kings of all the cities and all the provinces know about Yehoshua and Moses and the battles and the exodus from Egypt and the crossing of the Jordan, etc. Now Joshua said, open the mouth of the cave and bring out the kings from there. And they did, and they brought out the 5 kings from the cave, and Jerusalem, Hebron, Yarmut, Lachish, and Eglon. 5 of those, you should at least remember Jerusalem and Hebron. The other 2 are not that important, though Lachish and Eglon will be mentioned later on in the text. When they took them out and brought them to Joshua, Joshua called all the people and all the officers, and they say, put their feet on their necks, and they probably tied their feet to their necks so they can't run away. And it must have been pretty nasty to have your feet tied behind your neck. And this is what God will do to anybody who fights against us. So he has a sign, and of course, this public humiliation gets everybody to know and to talk about these defeated kings. And then, after they humiliated them, Joshua hid them and he killed them. And he hanged them on 5 separate trees, and they were left on the trees till nightfall. Again, a public humiliation and a fear tactic for everybody else. When the sun comes up in the morning, Joshua told them to take them off the trees, and they threw them back into the cave, and they put back the stones on the openings, and so it remained forever sealed in their caves. Now we're going back to Makkedah on verse 28. 1 second. Here we go. And Joshua conquered Makkedah and defeated its king and everything in the city. He left nothing for them. And he came to Livnah, and he fought against Livnah as well. And that too was conquered. So we have lots of cities that are conquered by Joshua. And of course, his importance rises in the eyes of all of Israel because everybody sees that God is with him. So he defeated Makkedah and Livnah, and he fought against Livnah and defeated it. And he did to them like he did to the king of Jericho. And then he went from Livnah to Lachish and defeated that as well. And on the second day, he defeated all of its people as well. So Lachish is now conquered. And there was nobody left in Lachish. They conquer it. Let's see. Everybody is defeated like Lachish. Eglon is defeated. And then they go to Hebron. Hebron becomes a very important city because later on in the Bible, King David makes his capital in Hebron. And where did we meet Hebron before? Let's see who remembers. Yes, indeed. Me'arat HaMachpelah is in Hebron, and Abraham bought it from Ephron Hachiti for how many? 400 silver coins, and everybody's buried there except, right, Rachel is buried in Beit Lechem. Okay, so they conquer Hebron again, and Yehoshua goes back to Dvir and conquers the next city, Dvir, and so they go on to tell us all the names of the city, and he defeated Dvir the same way as he defeated Hebron, and he now defeated all the Negev, all the south and all the coast. So Joshua is successful in making his conquest. He's conquering Eretz Israel, which basically fulfills what God promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Joshua continues to conquer and all the kings that were there and anybody that fought against them. At the end, Joshua and Israel, after this long list of battles, they return to Gilgal, and we will do chapter 11 next day. Thank you very much.